A television crew comes to the farm to do an interview with the shepherd about his daily routine. Our viewers would like to know what a regular day here in the countryside looks like. Can you start right from the beginning? Asks the reporter. Oh, yeah, sure, starts the shepherd. So first I wake up, but I really don't want to, so I take a sip of my brandy to start off my day. Then I have to go out to release the sheep. I'm still quite sleepy, so I take 2 sips to make me go outside and 1 more to have energy to open the gate. Out in the field, I usually meet my pal and we drink 2 whole bottles of brandy together and then— Oh, I'm sorry, interrupts the reporter. We cannot really air that. Children are watching and we don't want to make a bad impression. How about every time you drink, you say you read a book instead? Yeah, that makes sense, says the shepherd and starts over. Well, the first thing in the morning, I wake up and read a page of my book. Then I go outside and read 2 more pages plus 1 more while opening the gate for the sheep. While out in the field, I usually meet my buddy, and we read 2 books together. Then we return home while reading page after page and lock the sheep in the barn. Finally, at the end of the day, we go to town, where my friend has a library and we read till the morning. A guy sits down in a movie theater and notices that the man in front of him has brought his dog and it's sitting in the seat next to him. He thinks it's unusual, but he likes dogs, so he decides that as long as it's not a distraction, he won't mention it. The movie starts, and pretty soon there's a funny part. The dog makes some low woofing sounds that seem like laughter. In a little while there's a sad part, and the dog appears to be weeping. This continues throughout the film, and the man sitting behind the dog is astounded. When the lights come up, he taps the dog's owner on the shoulder and tells him, I have to say, and I know it sounds weird, but it seemed like your dog really enjoyed this movie. The dog owner looks at the dog and nods. I know, it really is weird, he says, because he absolutely hated the book. So I was sitting on the bus just reading a book when somebody tapped me on the shoulder. I turned around and saw an old lady. She said to me, Sonny, would you like some nuts? I've got a couple hazelnuts and almonds if you'd like. Sure, I replied. Then she gave me a handful of nuts and went back to sit with her friends. What a nice lady, I thought, while happily munching on the nuts. A few minutes later, I felt another tap on my shoulder, and there she was again, offering some nuts. I gladly accepted, and she went back to her seat. After about 10 minutes, she tapped me on the shoulder, once again offering some nuts. I asked her, why don't you eat them yourself? Because we've got no teeth, she replied. Then why do you buy them? I asked. Oh, because we just love the chocolate around them. As a butcher is shooing away a dog from his shop, he sees a $25 bill and a note in his mouth that reads, 10 pork chops, please. Amazed, he takes the money, puts a bag of 10 pork chops in the dog's mouth, and quickly closes the shop. He follows the dog and watches him wait for a green light, look both ways, and trot across the road to a bus stop. The dog checks the bus schedule and sits on the bench when a bus arrives, then boards the bus. The butcher follows, dumbstruck. After a while, the dog stands on his back legs to pull the yellow stop cable. The butcher follows him off the bus. The dog runs up to a house and drops his bag on the step. He goes back down the path, takes a big run, and throws himself whap against the door. He does this again and again. No answer. So he jumps on a wall, walks around the garden, beats his head against a window, jumps off, and waits at the front door. A big guy opens it and starts cursing and shouting at the dog. The butcher runs up and screams at the guy. What the hell are you doing? This dog is a genius. The owner responds, Genius, my ass. It's the 2nd time this week. He's forgotten his keys. A blind pilot walks into a plane waving his walking stick. The passengers all look at each other in disbelief. The flight attendant gets on the PA and says, Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, the captain is legally blind, but rest assured, he is one of the best pilots in the world with over 6,000 successful flights. Next, the co-pilot makes his way to the plane, and he is also blind and uses his walking stick to make it to the cabin. The flight attendant gets on the PA and says, Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, the co-pilot is also blind, but rest assured, he is the 2nd best pilot in the world with over 5,000 successful flights. At this point, the plane begins to take off from the runway. As it gains speed, the passengers grow tenser. The plane keeps accelerating more and more, and as it approaches the end of the runway, it still hasn't left the ground. The plane is approaching the end of the runway at high speed, and the passengers scream, "Oh my God, we're all going to die!" Suddenly, the plane takes off and begins its ascent. The pilot turns to the co-pilot and says, "The day they stop screaming, we're screwed!" A local charity realized that it had never received a donation from the town's most successful lawyer. The volunteer in charge of contributions called him to persuade him to contribute. "Our research shows that out of a yearly income of more than $600,000, you give not a penny to charity. Wouldn't you like to give back to the community in some way?" The lawyer thought about it for a minute and replied, "First, did your research also show that my mother is dying after a long illness and has medical bills that are several times her annual income?" Embarrassed, the volunteer mumbled, No. "Second, that my brother, a disabled veteran, is blind and confined to a wheelchair." The stricken volunteer began to stammer out an apology, but was cut off. "Third, that my sister's husband died in a horrific traffic accident." The lawyer's voice rose in indignation, "leaving her penniless with 3 children." The humiliated volunteer, completely beaten, said simply, "I had no idea. On a roll, the lawyer cut him off once again. And I don't give them any goddamn money, so why should I give any to you?" There were 3 guys in an airplane. One guy dropped a rock, another dropped a brick, and the last dropped a grenade. When they got back on the ground, they were walking down the street and they saw a woman crying. Oh? Being the gentlemen they are, they went up to ask her why she was crying. She said, "A rock fell from the sky, landed on my cat, and now my cat is dead." The men said they were very sorry to hear that and walked away. The next house they came across a little further down the road, there was another woman crying. Being the gentlemen they are, they walk up to her and ask her why she was crying. She said, "A brick fell from the sky, landed on my dog, and now my dog is dead." The men said they were very sorry to hear that and walked away. The next house they came across a little further down the road had a man laughing his head off. Wondering what was so funny, they went up to ask him. After they asked him, he replied, "I bent over to get the newspaper this morning. I farted and my whole house blew up." A bodybuilder was showing off in the mirror at his gym. Able to lift twice the weight of anyone else around, he routinely boasted about how he was the greatest and everyone else was beneath him while drinking his huge container of protein shake. One day, after seeing a new extremely attractive woman at the gym, he decided to show off some more by loading his bench press bar with more weights than ever before. He chugged his favorite protein drink and lay down on the bench. The first few reps were not too bad, but on the 5th rep, his arms gave out and the weight came down straight on his neck, killing him instantly. Because he thought he was God's gift to man, he was surprised when heaven looked like an old, run-down gym. Upon his arrival, a devil dressed as a personal trainer met him to answer a few questions. The bodybuilder asked, "Where am I?" "You are in hell and I am your devil," the devil replied. "Why?" asked the man. The devil said, "Your vanity and arrogance were sins that led you here. Now, you will spend the rest of eternity working out but never seeing any results." The man said, "Well, that's not so bad. I mean, I love working out. So where can I get a protein shake around here?" The devil cackled. "You can't. There's no way in hell." A lady is walking down the street and sees a parrot in the window of a pet store. She stops to admire the bird. The parrot says to her, "Hey, lady, you are really ugly." Well, the lady is furious. She storms past the store to her work. The next day, she sees the same parrot in the window. When the parrot sees her, it says, "Hey, lady, you are really ugly." She's livid and storms off. A day later, she sees the same parrot, and once again it says, "Hey, lady, my God, are you ugly?" The lady is so furious that she marches into the store and threatens to sue the store and have the bird killed. The store manager apologizes profusely and promises the bird won't say it again. The next day, when the lady walks past the store, the parrot says to her, "Hey, lady, lady." She pauses, scowls with an icy stare, and says, "Yes." And the parrot says, "You know." The world's foremost authority on wasps is walking down the street when he sees an old vinyl record in the window of an antique shop, Wasp Noises from Around the World. Intrigued, he goes into the shop and asks if he can listen to it. "Certainly," says the shop assistant and pops it onto an ancient turntable. After listening to the first track for a while, the world's foremost authority on wasps is a bit confused. "I don't recognize any of these noises, and I'm the world's foremost authority on wasps. Can you play the next track, please?" The assistant obliges and skips the needle onto the next track after a while. The world's foremost authority on wasps is still confused. "No, I still don't recognize any of these wasps. Can you try the next track?" The assistant skips the needle on, and the world's foremost authority on wasps listens for a little while longer before shaking his head. "It's no good. I just don't recognize any of these wasps." The assistant peers at the label of the record and says, "Oh, I'm terribly sorry. I had it on the B-side." A husband and wife who work for the circus go to an adoption agency looking to adopt a child, but the social workers there raise doubts about their suitability. So the couple produces photos of their 50-foot motorhome, which is clean and well-maintained and equipped with a beautiful nursery. The social workers are satisfied by this, but then raise concerns about the kind of education a child would receive while in the couple's care. The husband puts their mind at ease, saying, "We've arranged for a full-time tutor who will teach the child all the usual subjects, along with French, Mandarin, and computer skills." Next, though, the social workers express concern about a child being raised in a circus environment. This time the wife explains, "Our nanny is a certified expert in pediatric care, welfare, and diet." The social workers are finally satisfied and ask the couple, "What age child are you hoping to adopt?" The husband says, "It doesn't really matter, as long as the kid fits in the canon." A guy is playing golf with his wife. They're on the 12th hole, and the guy slices his tee shot right into the woods. He trudges into the woods and locates his ball. It's in a little clearing, but there is a big barn between him and the green. He takes a good look and says, "Listen, honey, I think if you hold the barn door open, I can hit the ball right through the barn and onto the green." So his wife goes over and holds the door open. The guy takes a 4-iron and whack, hits the ball. The ball hits his wife right between the eyes, killing her instantly. Well, it's a year later, and the guy is on the same golf course with his new wife. They're on the 12th hole, and once again he hits a slice into the woods. Shaking his head with disgust, he heads into the woods. Sure enough, his ball is in about the same spot. Sadly, he takes out a 7-iron and lines up to hit the ball sideways back onto the fairway. Before he can take the shot, his new wife says, "Honey, I think I might be able to hold the barn door open for you. That way you can hit the ball through the barn and onto the green." The guy just shakes his head. "No way, dear," he says. "I tried that last year and ended up with a 9 on the hole." A woman one day takes a hike around the forest by her house to take some time off from people. She stumbles upon a teapot, grabs it, and obviously rubs it. A genie appears. "Hello, lady, you've released me from my trap. Now I shall grant you 3 wishes, but there's a catch. Whatever I give you, your husband will get 3 times larger." The woman looks at the genie and says, "I want $1 billion. The genie responds, "As you wish, but your husband will get 3 billion. The woman continues, "I want a beautiful castle." The genie says, "As you wish, but your husband will get 3 beautiful castles, and they will be larger than yours." The woman then stops and thinks for a moment before claiming her 3rd and final wish and says, "Now give me one tiny, tiny, tiny little heart attack." A despondent young woman who had lost her job and her house had decided to commit suicide. She was walking along a bridge across the harbor, getting the nerve to jump in when a young man saw her. "Don't do it," he called out. He looked at her and realized she was incredibly beautiful. He came closer. "What's wrong?" he asked. The woman told him. "Okay, here's the thing," he said. "I'm a crew member on a ship that leaves for Europe tomorrow morning. How about you come with me on the ship? I'll bring you food and drink." He slid his arm around her. "I keep you happy. You keep me happy." She agreed. After all, there wasn't much else to do. She didn't have family. The man was quite handsome as well, no harm in trying. The next morning, he hid her in one of the lifeboats on the ship with a pillow and a blanket. Every night, he brought her 3 sandwiches and a piece of fruit, and they made love until dawn. One day, about a week after the affair started, the captain was doing his rounds and found her inside one of the lifeboats. "What the hell are you doing here?" She explained what was going on. "I get food and a trip to Europe, and he gets to screw me." "He sure does, sweetheart. This is the Sydney Harbor Ferry." It was a dark, quiet night when a man hurried into his bedroom, mistakenly assuming the woman lying on the bed was his wife. Without a second thought, he slipped under the covers and moved a little closer. The room was pitch black, and the woman didn't say a word. She only let out a soft hum. Rachel, is that you?" Feeling confident, the man whispered, "Shh, it's just me, your husband." But suddenly the woman spoke, her voice hesitant, yet unmistakably firm. Excuse me, I'm not your wife." The man froze, his confidence evaporating in an instant. After an awkward pause, he muttered under his breath, "Well, there's no turning back now. Halfway in, halfway gone." Two guys left the bar after a long night of drinking, jumped in the car, and started it up. After a couple of minutes, an old man appeared in the passenger window and tapped lightly. The passenger screamed, "Look at the window! There's an old ghost's face there!" The driver sped up, but the old man's face stayed in the window. The passenger rolled his window down part way and, scared out of his wits, said, "What do you want?" The old man softly replied, "You got any tobacco?" The passenger handed the old man a cigarette and yelled, "Step on it!" to the driver, rolling up the window in terror. A few minutes later, they calmed down and started laughing again. The driver said, "I don't know what happened, but don't worry, we're doing 80 now." All of a sudden, there was a light tapping on the window, and the old man reappeared. "There he is again!" the passenger yelled. He rolled down the window and shakily said, "Yes?" "Do you have a light?" the old man quietly asked. The passenger threw a lighter out the window, saying, "Step on it!" They were flooring it and going about 100 miles an hour, trying to forget what they had just seen and heard, when all of a sudden there came some more tapping. "Oh my God, he's back!" The passenger rolled down the window and screamed in stark terror. "What now?" The old man gently replied, "You want some help getting out of the mud?" A man seeing flashing red and blue lights in his rearview mirror pulls to the side of the road. After coming to a stop, a police officer approaches the car. The man asks, "What's the problem, officer?" Officer, "You were going 75 miles an hour in a 55-mile-an-hour zone. I'm afraid I'm going to have to ticket you." Man, "No, sir, I was going a little over 60. Wife, "Oh, Harry, you were going at least 80. The man gives his wife a dirty look. Officer, "I'm also going to give you a ticket for your broken taillight." Man, "Broken taillight? I didn't know about a broken taillight." Wife, "Oh, Harry, you've known about that taillight for weeks." The man gives his wife another dirty look. Officer, "I'm also going to give you a citation for not wearing your seatbelt." Man, "Officer, I just took it off when you were walking up to the car." Wife, "Oh, Harry, you never wear your seatbelt." The man turns to his wife and yells, "For crying out loud, can't you just shut up?" The officer looks at the woman and asks, "Ma'am, does your husband talk to you this way all the time?" Wife says, "No, officer, only when he's drunk." After my retirement at the company I worked at for 50 years, I looked forward to some relaxation time and putting my feet up, but my wife had other ideas. She insisted I take her to the local shopping center every day. Like most men, I found shopping boring and preferred to get in and out. She's like most women. She loves to browse and leaves me with endless time to fulfill. Yesterday, my dear wife received the following letter from the local shopping center. "Dear Mrs. Harris, over the past 6 months, your husband has caused quite a commotion in our store. We cannot tolerate this behavior and have been forced to ban both of you from the store. Our complaints against your husband, Mr. Harris, are listed below and are documented by our video surveillance cameras. June 15th, he took 24 boxes of condoms and randomly put them in other people's carts when they weren't looking. July 2nd, set all the alarm clocks in housewares to go off at 5-minute intervals. July 7th, he made a trail of tomato juice on the floor leading to the women's restroom. July 19th, walked up to an employee and told her in an official voice, "Code 3 in housewares, get on it right away." This caused the employee to leave her assigned station and receive a reprimand from her supervisor that, in turn, resulted in a union grievance, causing management to lose time and costing the company money. We don't have a code 3. August 4th, went to the service desk and tried to put a bag of M&Ms on layaway. August 14th, moved a caution wet floor sign to a carpeted area. August 15th, set up a tent in the camping department and told the children's shoppers he'd invite them in if they would bring pillows and blankets from the bedding department, to which 20 children obliged. August 23rd, when a clerk asked if they could help him, he began crying and screamed, "Why can't you people just leave me alone?" EMTs were called. September 4th, looked right into the security camera and used it as a mirror while he picked his nose. September 10th, while handling guns in the hunting department, he asked the clerk where the antidepressants were. October 3rd, darted around the store suspiciously while loudly humming the Mission Impossible theme. October 6th, in the auto department, he practiced his Madonna look using different sizes of funnels. October 18th, hid in a clothing rack and when people browsed through, yelled, "Pick me, pick me." October 22nd, when an announcement came over the loudspeaker, he assumed a fetal position and screamed, "Oh no, it's those voices again!" Took a box of condoms to the checkout clerk and asked, "Where is the fitting room?" And last but not least, October 23rd, went into a fitting room, shut the door, waited a while, then yelled very loudly, "Hey, there's no toilet paper in here." One of the clerks passed out. John and his girlfriend, Mary, decide to become bank robbers. Mary does the actual robbing at gunpoint inside the banks while John waits outside as the getaway driver. They are initially successful with a string of heists that make headlines and they become folk heroes. Until one day their luck runs out and they get caught. At trial, the judge condemns Mary to 10 years in prison, while John gets 2 years. However, once they get to their respective prisons, they discover that due to a clerical error, John will be serving 10 years and Mary only 2. Despite her insistence, John convinces Mary to keep quiet about it. After 2 years, Mary gets out and she continues to visit John faithfully every month, and they exchange letters and phone calls regularly for the remainder of his 10 years. Finally, after he does his time, John gets out and is joyfully reunited with Mary. They get married and move to a different state and start anew, leaving their life of crime behind. They raise a family with children and grandchildren and eventually reach old age after having lived a happy marriage. At their 50th wedding anniversary party, the entire family and friends are gathered. A great celebration is had with many laughs and stories recounting their life together. The conversation turns to the secrets to a happy marriage. One of the guests asks Mary why she decided to stick with John while he was in prison, despite all of the hardships. Mary answers, "Well, you know you have found the one when you finish each other's sentences." I was about to propose to my girlfriend when my roommate, Joseph, barged into the room out of nowhere, tripped, and fell over, breaking a glass table with his face. Totally ruined the mood. Now, I don't know Joseph that well. I don't even remember where he was from, but let's say I put my plans on hold to help him through his injuries. Joseph had gotten a big glass shard in his eye, making him completely blind in that eye. He was walking around with one of those big cotton pads on his eye for a couple of months. Then suddenly, he disappeared, along with my girlfriend. Apparently, they'd bonded during the time after his injuries and eloped together, leaving me behind without as much as a note. I tried to track them down, but never could. In conclusion, if it hadn't been for Joe with his cotton eye, I'd have been married a long time ago. Where did you come from and where did you go? Where did you come from, Cotton Eye Joe? A woman was in bed with her lover when she heard her husband opening the front door. In a panic, she told her lover, "Hurry, stand in the corner, don't move until I tell you to. Just shut your eyes and pretend you're a statue." At the moment, her husband walked into the room. "What's this, honey?" he asked. "Oh, it's just a statue," she replied nonchalantly. "The Smiths bought one for their bedroom. I liked it so much, I got one for us, too." They went to sleep, and then around 3 o'clock in the morning, the husband got out of bed, went to the kitchen, and came back with a sandwich and a glass of milk. "Here," he said to the statue, "eat something. I stood like an idiot at the Smiths for 3 days, and nobody offered me so much as a glass of water." There was a man who had worked all of his life and had saved all of his money. He was a real cheapskate when it came to his money. He loved money more than just about anything. And just before he died, he said to his wife, "Now listen, when I die, I want you to take all my money and place it in the casket with me, because they want to take all my money to the afterlife." So he got his wife to promise him with all her heart that when he died, she would put all the money in the casket with him. When one day he died, he was stretched out in the casket. The wife was sitting there in black next to their best friend. When they finished the ceremony, just before the undertakers got ready to close the casket, the wife said, "Wait a minute." She had a shoebox with her. She came over with the box and placed it in the casket. Then the undertakers locked the casket and rolled it away. Her friend said, "I hope you weren't crazy enough to put all that money in there with that stingy old man." She said, "Yes, I promised. I'm a good Christian, can't lie. Promised him that was to put that money in the casket with him." "You mean to tell me you put every cent of his money in the casket with him?" "I sure did," said the wife. "I got it all together, put it into my account, and wrote him a check." This is a story about a couple who had been happily married for years. The only friction in their marriage was the husband's habit of farting loudly every morning when he awoke. The noise would wake his wife, and the smell would make her eyes water and make her gasp for air. Every morning, she would plead with him to stop ripping them off, because it was making her sick. He told her he couldn't stop it and that it was perfectly natural. She told him to see a doctor. She was concerned that one day he would blow his guts out. The years went by, and he continued to rip them out. Then, one Christmas Day morning, as she was preparing the turkey for dinner and he was upstairs sound asleep, she looked at the innards, neck, gizzard, liver, and all the spare parts, and a malicious thought came to her. She took the bowl and went upstairs, where her husband was sound asleep, and gently pulling the bed covers back, she pulled back the elastic waistband of his underpants and emptied the bowl of turkey guts into his shorts. Sometime later, she heard her husband wake with his usual trumpeting, which was followed by a blood-curdling scream and the sound of frantic footsteps as he ran into the bathroom. The wife could hardly control herself as she rolled on the floor laughing, tears in her eyes. After years of torture, she reckoned she had gotten him back pretty good. About 20 minutes later, her husband came downstairs in his blood-stained underpants with a look of horror on his face. She bit her lip as she asked him what was the matter. He said, "Honey, you were right all these years. You have warned me, and I didn't listen to you." "What do you mean?" asked his wife. "Well, you always told me that one day I would end up farting my guts out, and today it finally happened. But by the grace of God, some Vaseline and 2 fingers, I think I got most of them back in." A man, while playing on the front 9 of a complicated golf course, became confused as to where he was on the course. Looking around, he saw a lady playing ahead of him. He walked up to her, explained his confusion, and asked her if she knew what hole he was playing. She replied, "I'm on the 7th hole, and you are a hole behind me, so you must be on the 6th hole." He thanked her and went back to his golf. On the back 9, the same thing happened, and he approached her again with the same request. She said, "I'm on the 14th hole. You are a hole behind me, so you must be on the 13th hole." Once again he thanked her and returned to his play. He finished his round and went to the clubhouse, where he saw the same lady sitting at the end of the bar. He asked the bartender if he knew the lady. The bartender said that she was a saleswoman and played the course often. He approached her and said, "Let me buy you a drink in appreciation for your help. I understand that you are in the sales profession. I'm in sales too. What do you sell?" She replied, "If I tell you, you'll laugh." "No, I won't." "Well, if you must know," she answered, "I work for Tampax." With that, he laughed so hard he almost lost his breath. She said, "See? I knew you would laugh." "That's not what I'm laughing at. he replied. I'm a salesman for Preparation H, so I'm still a hole behind you.